Hello everyone, thanks for joining our training session this afternoon. Today we're going to be going through password managers and how you might be able to use those to help secure your online presence. And also we'll touch base on some tools you can use to help back up your data in the case of something bad happening to it. Just on your screen here, we've had a bit of a splash screen just talking about ransomware. This is something that's happening quite a lot in recent times. Over the last few years, this is happening more and more. So these are some studies that have been done by CyberEdge and Veritas. This is where I'm drawing this information from. And out of the respondents, there's been 62% of companies worldwide that have been affected by ransomware. So in Australia, that's 45% of those that return the survey have been affected by ransomware. And of those that have been affected, between 3 and 5 attacks per company. So one company is receiving multiple attacks here for this ransomware. All right, and surprisingly, we've got 69% of the companies that have had ransomware have gone through to pay the ransom amount. So ransomware, of course, is when someone compromises your system and they'll encode all your files so you cannot open them. There's nothing you can do with them apart from get the key to unlock it. So usually what they'll do is they will request a sum of money, probably in the form of Bitcoin. So you need to pay a Bitcoin address for them to release a key to you to unlock your files. Again, there's no guarantee they'll give you that key so you can unlock it. So really your only option is to rely on a backup here. So it is surprising that 69% of these companies don't have a backup that was capable of restoring their data. All right, so today we're just going to touch on a couple of things that you can implement in your business quite quickly, just to help secure yourself here. So there's lots of different things you can do. These are 2 immediate things you should do straight away. So one is use a password manager. Today we're going through LastPass. I've used that personally for quite a few years. There are lots of other password managers on the market as well, so you can use those. But in our group, we use LastPass and we can support LastPass with you. So that's probably a good option if you don't already have one. So the idea behind a password manager is that you can use strong passwords. You don't have to remember them. Once you log into your password manager, it remembers everything for you. This next option here is the OneDrive/iGyro to help in recovery. So OneDrive is a Microsoft solution that can help back up your files. It's not a true backup, but there is some advantages to using it that we'll go through shortly. And iGyro does give you a nice backup strategy as well. All right, so these are things you should be thinking of when you're creating passwords for every account, every service that you use across the internet, even on your local machines. So you need to use complex passwords. You should never reuse passwords. Change your passwords periodically, and always enable multi-factor authentication. So I'll just go through some reasons why you'd need to do this. So complex passwords, the main reason for that is that you can be victim to, say, a brute force attack, where an attacker can try and compromise your system just by trying lots and lots and lots of different passwords. So if you're using really simple passwords, 1, 2, 3, 4, the word password is your password, that'll get hacked very quickly. All right, so if you reuse your passwords across the internet, the trouble with this is that lots of times you're signing up to services with your email address, and if you're using the same password everywhere, if one of those sites get compromised, essentially they've got a password to every account that you own. So there's actually billions of passwords that have been leaked in previous years. So if you've got a really old password, there's a very good chance that's been held up in one of those leaked situations where a server's been compromised somewhere. If you haven't changed them for a while, go and do it. All right, so again, change your passwords periodically. Now, multi-factor, you've seen that quite a few times. That's generally, you need another device to try and log in using your passwords. So even if they can compromise your password, you need to have something like your mobile phone to help authenticate. So a lot of the times you might see that in the form of, say, a text message where they give you a code that you need to enter. But there's also multi-factor tools. So LastPass has one of those as well called Authenticator. Worthwhile having that as well. It can make it a lot easier to log into these sites when using multi-factor. All right, so just back onto using OneDrive and iGyro as backups. So the best practice is for you to have 3 copies of your data. You need to have the set that you're currently working in. You need a local copy of that, and you need an offsite copy. So there's many reasons for that. Ransomware is one of them. Your computer could just die though. That's another option, and that can happen fairly easily. I guess worse than that, your building could burn down. And if it's all on site, you'll lose all of that as well. All right, OneDrive is not really a true backup, but it does give you a bit of resiliency in case some hardware dies or in case of ransomware. An interesting feature that it does have is it has ransomware detection, so that if OneDrive notices that you've got lots of files that are being changed and it looks like ransomware, you'll get some notifications to let you know that's happening. So OneDrive does have file versioning, meaning that potentially if there's some ransomware, you can revert to an older version of the file. But it also means if it's accidentally deleted, you can restore as well using the recycle bins and retention policies. So we'll have a look at that briefly, how some of that can work for you. Another important piece here is iGyro. So you're all using Gyro. If you're storing all of your important files in Gyro for all of your jobs, automatically you've got at least 3 copies. So the Gyro cloud does this itself. So it's following the best practice. It's got its own local copy, it's got its own local backup, and it has an offsite backup as well. All right, so if you're using a combination of these two, you're working on files in OneDrive, you're also using Gyro. Essentially, you've got 4 copies of your data floating around. So if the inevitable does happen, you've got lots of backup options using these. All right, let's get that out of the way here. So now we'll actually go through on how you can use LastPass. So I'm just using the Edge browser here. Every other browser will have a very similar way to install this. LastPass has a couple of different options here. We install it as an extension into the web browser, but you can also put it on your mobile phone as well. So a good reason for that is that you've always got your passwords with you. So it doesn't matter where you are, you've got your phone, you can access your passwords. So whatever you do on your computer also syncs with your mobile phone as well. All right, so in Edge, we can jump into here and we can go to extensions and click on this Get Extensions for Microsoft Edge. And we'll just do a quick search for LastPass. All right, so here's the LastPass password manager. We'll get that one, add the extension. All right, it's just downloading and scanning for viruses. That's a good thing. Just wait for a moment. All right, so it looks like we're installed. So once it's installed, you'll notice you have the little LastPass icon at the top here. And if you're new to LastPass, you need to go through and create an account, or you can just log in with one. So I created one a little earlier. I'll just use that one. Now, when you're creating the master password for your LastPass, make it a very strong one, because this is the last password you're going to need. All right, once you're signed into LastPass, the little icon here will go red, and you've got some options here to use. All right, so if we click on Open My Vault, this is where all your passwords are stored. So we'll see that in a moment when we start adding passwords, they'll be available in here. All right, and another interesting one here is this Generate Secure Password. So if you're working on something that's not on the internet, you're for another service, for example, you can click on Generate Secure Password, and here's a password you can use straight away. So clicking refresh will change that password for you. Again, they're very hard to read. You'd never ever remember that, but that's the whole point. If we can't remember it, no one else can either, and it's hard to hack. So you can use some of these settings to change the options here. This is a password length of 12 character length. So we can increase that to 20 or more if you wanted to be a bit more secure as well. Might add some symbols in this slot as well. All right, so it's simple as just copying that with the copy button, and I'll copy it to your clipboard. Or you can just highlight and Control-C will copy it as well. All right, now what we'll do, we'll just log back into LastPass again, into the vault. And we'll have a look at some settings. All right, so you want to come in here and change these settings. Once you've modified all these, you can get your right time zone, etc. A few things you want to do is set the recovery phone. So if something happens and you do forget your master password, this would probably give you an option to restore that, to recover your password. So just follow the prompts with that one. That'll register your phone. Multi-factor. So you'd want to turn multi-factor onto your LastPass account. So the reason for that is you need your username, you need your password, but you also need to be authenticated by some other separate device. So as you can see, here's a list of different authenticators you can use. We're using LastPass, we might as well use the LastPass authenticator. It has lots of advantages to do that. All right, so it's disabled at the moment. You just go through, click the edit button, turn enabled onto yes, and just follow the prompts, and that will register your phone. So this authenticator bypasses the need to have an SMS text message sent to you. So it's actually an app on your phone. So that way, when you are trying to authenticate, you'll use that app to generate the special code to help you log in. All right, once you've got yourself all nice and secured, the next thing you'd like to do is go through all of your other services and start changing to stronger passwords. So here's Gyro as an example. I'll just log into here. Okay, so this is Edge trying to remember my password. That's probably something else we'd like to do as well. We'd like to stop Edge from remembering your passwords. It's not as secure, not as convenient as putting it all in your LastPass app. So we'll close that. We'll go back into the Edge settings. And it should be passwords here somewhere. Here, there's a passwords option. And we'll turn these things off. So offer to save passwords, no. And sign in automatically, no. So from this point on, we'll be relying on LastPass to do this for us. Actually, before I go too much further as well, I just remembered we're on a free account here. If you'd like to upgrade to the premium, you'll be able to use this across 2 devices. Recently, they've split that up so that you can only have your phone or your computer connected. If you upgrade to premium, which is only about $4.50 a month, you can access it on your phone and your computer at the same time. They'll be synchronized together. All right, so now we can go through and change our password here. So I'll go to Edit Profile. Click on the Change Password button. So just about every site that you have signed up to will have some sort of way to change your password. Most of the time, LastPass can work with that. If not, you can manually change it using your Generate Secure Password option. All right, so you'll notice here LastPass has added a few extra icons here. So if I click on that, that will generate a strong password for us. So here's the generated password. Again, there's some options here. You can change the password length, the sort of characters it's going to put in there. Now, I also like to copy this as well. Just sometimes you'll find there's some services when you're changing the passwords, LastPass for some reason doesn't get an opportunity to save it back into your vault. If you've copied it to your clipboard, that'll save you having to go through and reset your passwords again. All right, so that's just in case LastPass doesn't save that to your vault, you can manually update your passwords with it. All right, so that's done. We can click on the fill password option. You'll notice it's put it into both of these fields here. So the new password and the confirmed password. And LastPass has now prompted us to save this password. So my username for this one was just T Martin. And there's the password we've just generated. You can click to show it if we'd like. And you can also use folders to help organize your passwords as well. All right, I'll just click add for now. All right, password changed. So now if we go and take a look at our vault here, we'll go to open my vault. You can see here that we've got this username and password saved for this gyro URL. You click on that edit button, you have an option to go through and have a look at your password, and you can change it if you need to in here. So let's see what that looks like when you log in. So we'll log back out of gyro here. And again, you've got some new icons here. You can see the little number letting you know that it's got at least one username and password combination for you to use. And we just simply click on that fill option. That'll put your username and password in. And we're good to go. Alrighty, so that's LastPass. So if there's any questions, let me know just via the chat box. I'll put your hand up and you can ask a question. And we'll move on to OneDrive after this. All right, so just before we get on to OneDrive, so we have spoken about ransomware and other sorts of hacks and things that can occur. It is very common, as you can see from those stats that we shared earlier. I'd just like to share as well that we've been the victim a few times of some email compromised accounts. They're quite concerning because not only can they get into your email address, potentially once they're in there, they can reset passwords across the internet where you've signed up and use your email address as the username. But also they can spend time in your email address and see how you're corresponding with people. So potentially they could send an invoice out to a client, for example. So you might have an upcoming progress payment. They could send an email out to the client with an invoice, modify the payment details, and your client wouldn't know anything's wrong here. It's come from your account. They've compromised your account and can use it exactly as if the email come from you. So the client can receive this email, receive the invoice, make a payment to this bogus BSB and account number, and the money's gone, disappeared. So that's very important to secure your email accounts. One way of doing that is using LastPass to make a very strong password, but also turn two-factor authentication on for your email accounts as well. So you should use two-factor wherever you can on any internet account. So that was, say, an email compromised account. Actually, just last week, we've also had a ransomware issue where they've compromised one of our servers and accessed a remote drive, and they've encrypted everything on that drive. So that was including, say, 10, 15 years worth of drawing files. So that's countless hours of designers drawing homes and making standards that would all be lost to this ransomware. So we had two options. One is to pay the ransom. Two is to recover from a backup. And thankfully, we've got very good backups. Within the day, we had all of our data restored. So it's very important. If you think it's not going to happen to you, it can. It can happen to small businesses. So we're a fairly small business, and we've been targeted just like the multinationals. right, so if I just open a folder here. All right, so this is OneDrive. So many of you are probably familiar with it. If you're not, I'll just give you a bit of a rundown on what that can do for you. So OneDrive can act just as if it's as if it's part of your file system. So you can see here, we've got this OneDrive option, and you can just create folders and add files to it, just like it's your file system. All right, so I can create a new text document, for example. So these can be any types of files, Word documents, Excel, anything you need. So you'll notice here we've got a status. So OneDrive is automatically syncing this online. So you can see down the system tray here. Okay, it's synchronizing that for us. And at some point, it'll just give us a nice little tick just to say that that's completed and is uploaded. So I'll just open that and make a change. You can see that new folder's just been ticked. Let's make a small change to the file and save that. So again, a few advantages here. You've got some sharing options, but what we're looking at here is that the backup purposes. So we right click on this one and go to version history. It's not quite synced yet. We need to wait for that to complete. But it should be as simple as that. If you've got a file that's been damaged in some way, so even if it's some sort of a ransomware, there's a good chance you can right click this, go to version history, and choose an older version to restore from. So as you make changes, it'll get synchronized to the cloud as well. You can see it doing its syncing thing. So right click, go to version history now. You see we've got these other options that we can restore to. So we could jump onto that one, choose restore. And like magic, it's reverted back to one of our earlier versions. All right, so that's probably all I'll go through today with OneDrive. If it's something that's interesting to you, to your business, it's very easy to get started, especially if you've got an INH email address. If you have one of those and you don't already have OneDrive, we can just change your subscription, upgrade that just from an Exchange-only mailbox to a Microsoft 365 subscription. That will give you OneDrive, but it will also give you all of the Microsoft software as well. So it can be a bit of a cost-saving way to do it that way if you're planning on buying Office as well. All right, so I'll...
How am I backing up all my existing documents to OneDrive?
Yes, that is a good question. What OneDrive can do is it can actually back up all of these for you as well. So your downloads, documents, pictures, they're special folders, and OneDrive has some settings where you can jump in and say, yes, I want to protect these options. So I want to protect these particular folders. So I haven't seen those settings for a little while, but they definitely are there. And when you're doing the setup for OneDrive, there are other options to say, yes, we do want to protect these special folders.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So that's one option. The other option is to create a folder structure in your OneDrive and drag and drop any existing files into that as well. So either of those two methods will work. All right, I think that's all I've got for now. So if there's any questions, please let me know. All right, so this session's been recorded as well. I'll make that available to everyone after this session ends. All right, no questions. All right, thanks for joining again, everyone, and we'll see you again next time.